What Churchill said when Patton pulled off an impossible 90 degrees pivot. The winter of 1944 did not announce itself gently. It arrived like a hammer. Snow buried the Ardennes. Ice choked the roads. Fog smothered the sky. And somewhere inside that frozen silence, the German army struck with everything it had left. The front lines shattered. American divisions were cut in half. Communications snapped. Artillery fell silent. Entire units vanished into forests of white and shadow. Maps became lies the moment they were unfolded. At Bastogne, the trap closed. The German panzers surged forward, steel grinding over snow, engines screaming against the cold. Infantry followed, boots crunching, rifles raised. The Americans inside the pocket were surrounded. Low on ammunition. Low on food. Low on hope. Impossible odds. In London, Winston Churchill stared at reports he did not like to read aloud. In Washington, generals argued over options that did not exist. In the field, men dug foxholes into frozen ground with bleeding hands. And far to the south, a man named George S. Patton read the same situation and smiled. Not because it was easy, but because it was clear. Patton stood over a map inside his headquarters, the room thick with cigarette smoke and tension. His Third Army was facing east. Every supply line. Every artillery battery. Every armored column. All oriented toward a completely different enemy. The Germans had struck north. Every doctrine said what came next was impossible. To turn an entire army in winter. To pivot hundreds of thousands of men, thousands of vehicles, tens of thousands of tons of fuel and ammunition. To do it fast. To do it under pressure. To do it while the enemy believed you could not. A 90-degree pivot. Most commanders would have asked how long it would take. Patton asked only one question. How soon can we attack? His staff stared at him. Some thought he was joking. Others thought he had finally gone too far. Logistics officers shook their heads. Weather officers warned of grounded aircraft. Intelligence officers spoke of German strength and American exhaustion. Patton listened. Then he cut them off. We're not discussing whether we can do it, he said. We're discussing how fast. Orders went out like gunfire. Tank columns reversed direction. Artillery batteries were unhitched and re-aimed. Engineers raced to clear frozen roads. Supply trucks roared through the night, headlights off, engines pushed to their limits. Units that had been advancing one way were suddenly charging another. The army moved as one body. Snowstorms lashed the columns. Vehicles slid into ditches. Men froze at the wheel. Some never woke up. But the movement did not stop. It could not stop. Patton drove among them, standing in his command car, ivory-handled pistols at his hips, scarf snapping in the wind. He cursed. He praised. He demanded. He believed. And belief, when carried by a leader who does not bend, becomes momentum. The Germans did not see it coming. Their intelligence said the Third Army was weeks away. Their commanders believed the roads impassable. Their strategy assumed American paralysis. They were wrong. On December 26, Patton's spearhead struck. American tanks burst through snow and smoke, engines roaring, guns blazing. Infantry advanced behind them, grim and relentless. Artillery thundered, shells tearing through frozen forests and enemy strongpoints. The siege of Bastogne cracked. Inside the pocket, exhausted American paratroopers heard a sound they never expected to hear again. Friendly guns. Cheers rose from foxholes. Men wept. Others laughed hysterically. The impossible had arrived in the form of olive drab and steel. The pivot had worked. In London, Churchill received the news in silence. He read the report twice. Then a third time. An entire army turned. In winter. Under fire. In days. He removed his cigar and spoke softly, almost to himself. Extraordinary. Later, in conversation with his aides, the words grew sharper. This, Churchill said, tapping the paper, is what aggressive command looks like. This is not defense. This is audacity married to speed. In Washington, validation followed. Eisenhower backed Patton fully. Critics fell quiet. The gamble had paid off, not by chance, but by will. On the battlefield, the cost was written in blood and snow. Burned out tanks. Frozen bodies. Ruined villages. Victory was never clean. Patton knew that. He stood near the front after the relief, watching smoke rise into the cold air. He did not smile then. He simply nodded, as if confirming something he had always known. That war rewards the bold. That hesitation kills. That when men are desperate, they do not need comfort. They need direction. The impossible pivot became legend. Not because it was clever. But because it was done when failure meant collapse. Churchill would later say that history favors those who seize the moment before it passes. In Patton, he saw a man who did not wait for permission from circumstance. He bent circumstance to his will. And in the frozen forests of the Ardennes, at a moment when the war balanced on a knife's edge, that made all the difference.